Hi, this is Kathy Sue Dorey, and I'm the founder of the Chain of Defense. And I am teaching via video, Skype, conference calls, a group out in Bamenda, Cameroon, out in Africa. I also have a co-facilitator out there who is learning this as I teach the group, as well as we have another co-facilitator who is a medical student out at the Frank Netter Medical School in Connecticut, New Haven, Connecticut, associated with Quinnipiac University. So the three of us are in conjunction teaching this cohort who are in-trafficked persons currently, although we do have several, like 4 who are currently free, but the rest are still in their situation of being in-trafficked. Anyway, today the session is going to deal with how to protect yourself physically and non-physically, and so this is like an introduction to some of the basic foundational principles of protecting yourself. So I'm just going to go through them. I don't have very much time. I try to make these kind of short because they're under time constraints over there. So the Chain of Defense teaches self-defense principles that are based on the discipline of pure Krav Maga, which is a distilled form of Krav Maga that has been founded by Baz Avram, who is used to be a chief instructor over at the Israeli Defense Forces. So in addition to those basic principles, there are also some other non-physical ways or differing ways that we teach our students. Some fall in line with the discipline of pure Krav Maga, and some fall outside of the discipline of pure Krav Maga, and usually I'll let you know which are aligned with and which are not aligned with. Anyway, the foundational principles. Usually what we do is we learn in progression. And the reason we learn in progression is to instill a sense of a chain of reaction and as well as learned intuitive behavior. Basically what that means is I'm not going to teach you ground defenses before I teach you how to get up or how to fall, how to do a break fall, forward or backward, and how to get up, because it's sort of like the progression of learning. You know, you learn how to fall, you learn how to get up, and then we teach some basic ground defenses. So that's one principle. We teach in progression. We always, I would say 99% out of the time, it just depends, but 99% out of the time, we always attack and defend at the same time. You'll never see us, usually never, I shouldn't say never, but usually I won't like block and then hit someone. I'll block and hit. So it's sort of like this. So I'm blocking, so I might block a strike that comes to me as well as hit, right? So it would be simultaneously, okay? We try to conserve all body movement. Less movement is better. It conserves energy. It makes you more efficient in your strikes or kicks, your defenses, your attacks. The next principle is in order to prevail, and I don't really like to talk about fights because I don't believe in fights because it's almost like a game or a sport. I talk about prevailing. And in order to prevail, your execution of protecting yourself has to have 2 things. It has to be efficient and it has to be effective. And these are basic. Now, you can be efficient with a strike, but not effective. Meaning, I could strike you really fast, but it won't engage a proper pressure point, and it won't do its job. Or it could be effective, meaning I could really punch you really hard, but it might take me too long to get to your pressure point, and maybe you've attacked me first. So every movement, every self-defense, defense and attack that we do has to have that criteria. It has to meet that criteria of being efficient and effective. So if you're out there and you teach self-defense outside of our group, and you're listening to this, you want to ask yourself, is this technique, and I don't talk about techniques, but most people in the industry do. I talk about body movements and principles. But if you're teaching a technique out there, you want to ask yourself, is it efficient and effective? It must be both. I will not teach anything that is not both. Next one is, remember that linear movement is faster, it's more efficient, it's more effective than a circular movement. So we don't do strikes like this, you know, unless we never do circular strikes, we don't do circular kicks. It takes too long. We're straight on. We do, I shouldn't say straight on, but we're linear in our movements. Even if we're on an angle, we'll be linear. Next one, we never really look to where we strike because we're kind of cluing off our attacker with what we might do, and so we never look to where we strike. We talk about line of vision, and it's usually right about here at our center of our body. So we always drop our line of vision a little bit, and the great part about that is you can also see a full perimeter of your attacker, meaning the head to the toes. So always remember that. And this one is probably going to drive a lot of people crazy, but we never use our voice at all unless our opponent is outside of our territory. Now, I've done some previous videos about personal space and personal territory, so you should be familiar what yours is. But we never use our voice. If someone is outside of your territory, you'll be able to say stop or don't come near me or whatever. That's fine. But once that person steps into your territory, there is no talking about it unless you're in a de-escalation mode. And we'll talk about those types of things at a later date. But the only time I suggest using your voice is when you can use it as a weapon. Meaning if someone comes in close and all you've got is his ear, you know, you can't even bite him or anything. I mean, you might be able to bite his ear, but I would shriek, I would scream bloody murder into the ear and try to break the eardrum. That is the only time I suggest using your voice. Unless, again, it's for in an avoidance situation or a de-escalation situation, the level of danger is extremely low, okay? Another principle, we never get in a fighting stance. Now, you see a lot of times, you know, a lot of martial artists or other people, they kind of get into this stance like this. It shows that you're ready. And you never want to get in a fighting stance. You never want to let your opponent know what you know. Let them think you know nothing. And that gives you an advantage. So our hands are never up like in fist mode, ready. We're not, you know, on an angle. Our one foot isn't behind the other. No, we are in neutral position, and our hands, we're just not in any kind of projection mode. Next one. We always attack and defend according to the position of our opponent's body. We always defend and attack also in accordance with the level of danger, right? So if someone is just verbally abusing me, I can't go off and hit them. If someone is hitting me, I can't pull out my gun and shoot them. Okay, so we're always defending and attacking according to the level of danger as well as to the position of my opponent as he's moving around, or maybe I've hit him, maybe I've already defended and given him a counter strike, maybe I've hit him a few times. And the way he moves after those hits is how I'm going to then gauge how my next counter strike or kick is going to be. The next principle, you always want to gauge your distance. Okay, you never want to allow anybody into your personal territory, and you always want to gauge your distance. And you know, you could be in striking distance, you know, with your arms. You could be in kicking distance. So you have to be able to gauge that distance. Another one, you always have to know your pressure points, and we've talked about pressure points, I believe, in our last session. And I have some videos up about some pressure points. And I did that video rather quickly because, again, time is of the essence with this group and with having to download these videos for them. You always want to remember, though, with pressure points, you always want to engage the closest pressure point with the closest part of your body, okay? So a lot of people, I'm short, so a lot of people are always trying to get to the head, the face, the chin, the mouth, the nose, the eye, whatever, even the neck. But because I'm about 5 foot tall, if someone is really tall, I'm not going to try to go to the head, because his groin might be right there, right in my face, presenting itself, right in the level of perhaps my arm. So if my arm is right here and he's that tall, I don't have to go to his head. I can go to his groin, and I can strike his groin. And that just gives you one example. There are many examples like that. But remember, and if you're on the ground, you don't have to get up to get to his face. You know, when you're on the ground, you know, strike his Achilles tendon, strike his shin, go for his knee, try to break his knee. And we do that with certain kicks, and that'll come along in future videos. Next one, and this one's really, really, really important. Don't ever be complacent. Don't ever think that, oh, it'll never happen to me, because it will, it can, and it may never happen to you, but why be in that frame of mode? You don't want to have that mindset. You never want to be complacent, and you always want to have a heightened awareness of where you are, your surroundings, and everything like that. Next one, you want to walk with confidence. You want your head up. You want your shoulders back. You don't want your head tilted down. You don't want to be in a phone. You don't want to be looking down, because this gives your potential attacker a sense of vulnerability. Now, vulnerability there's two parts of vulnerability, right? So vulnerability can be a good thing, and vulnerability can be a negative thing. And in this instance, your body language, if you show a sense of vulnerability for your body language, that's going to be a negative. You're going to start looking like a target. Attackers look for this type of person. One who is not paying attention to where they are. One who's maybe their shoulders are kind of hunched in and they're looking down, you know, as opposed to someone who's looking up. You're standing up, your shoulders are back, your eyes are forward, and you're looking around. You look like you know what you're doing. You look like you know where you're going. I don't care if you don't know where you're going. You better look like you know where you're going, okay? And you always want to be ready, okay? Next one, we always attack preemptively and defend intuitively. That means if we see someone coming toward us and we know that they're going to hit us, we're gonna walk into that. We're gonna do a preemptive defense and attack, meaning we're gonna meet them. So if they're coming here, right? They're coming in. We're not gonna just sit right here and wait. Okay, if we see it, we're not going to sit here and wait. We're actually, because if they're right here and I see that distance, I can kick them. I'm going to preempt that defense and attack by kicking them. Okay, and so we always try to meet the attack. That's we don't sit there and wait for them to get to us. And one of the main reasons is because if you get hit, you got 1%, if that, chance of prevailing. If you hit the other person, you're going to have a 99% chance of prevailing. So you want to keep your percentage of prevailing as high as it can, and all of these principles will allow you to prevail. It gives you the best chance, okay, and the highest percentage of prevailing. Next one, and this is really important too. They're all important, but this one's really important. Listen and trust your gut instinct. And it's just right all the time. And I used to say that it's 99% right. Forget it. It's just right all the time. Listen to your gut instinct. If you're feeling like, I don't know about this person, or I feel like I'm uncomfortable or whatever, listen to it. Evade. Get out of there if you can before you're presented in an altercation or a situation where you have to physically protect yourself. Listen to your gut. If you're walking outside, or let's say you're in your house and it's late at night, or maybe it's in the morning, or it could be any time of day, but all of a sudden your gut is telling you, you know what, I'm uncomfortable with having to go outside and walk to the market or wherever you're going to go. Listen to it. There's a reason you're feeling this way. Okay, so trust your gut and follow it every single time. And the final thing is use your mind. You yourself are your best defense. Use your mind. Defending yourself is not about physical strength. As you learned with redirection of force, you realize that you could have someone 3 times the size of you, and you can actually redirect their force that they're trying to place on you back onto them. Self-defense has nothing to do with strength and everything to do with knowledge, okay? It's about your intelligence, and it's about how to use yourself, your body as a weapon, your mind as a weapon, and just remember that you are your own best self-defense tool. And I'm going to stop there. We've got it about 15 minutes. It's a little longer than I wanted, but I think you guys will be able to get through it. And again, good luck, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.